Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Japan and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel once before. Now, these guys are a very new addition to the Japanese beer scene, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves. And the first review that I did from these guys appeared on the channel only a couple of weeks ago. That was a Belgian style Imperial Stout, and I was very impressed with that beer. But these guys seem to be very diverse in their output. They're trying lots and lots of different styles, and in my opinion, when you've got a brewery as young as these guys that are already doing that, that's a very good sign. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases from what I understand. It is the second version of quite a revered beer that these guys produced a few months ago, and it's a style that I do quite enjoy, one that's very popular at the moment, and one that I've heard this brewery are very good at. So I think this is a nice one for us to review now. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head a little bit to the northeast-ish of me here in Osaka, up to Mie Prefecture. We're going to the city of Ise, the home of the Japanese Shinto religion, and we're going to have a look at my second beer from the wonderful Himitsu Beer, or Secret Beer, as it would be in English. So this particular beer, in Japanese, is called Kyoku Hamatora-san. In English, it's called Mr. Hamatora, and it's the Hazy Cream Soup IPA. But it comes in at 8.5% ABV, and as the name suggests, this one is a New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, double Imperial IPA. So yeah, this should be really quite interesting actually. This one kind of caught my eye. It's another beer that I bought from the wonderful craft beer base Mother Tree in Umeda in Osaka. They had quite a few different things from Himitsu. Like I said, these guys are pretty big in terms of the kind of beers that they're putting out. At the moment, they're doing lots of really random and unusual stuff, so we will need to look at a few more of their things over the next little while. So keep your eyes peeled for more Himitsu reviews here on the channel actually. So yeah, since it's an Ise beer as well, a big shout out to my good friend Jordan of Jordan Outsider Inside Japan, if I'm getting his channel name correctly. He's appeared in quite a few of my out and about videos. He's a big ball of enthusiasm for pretty much anything Japan. He loves his craft beer as well, and yeah, he rates these guys very highly too. So I'll try and remember to put the link to his channel in the video description for you below, and if you want to see some really nice videos about Japanese culture and living in Japan, he is your man. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The Mr. Hamatora, what was it? The Hazy Cream Soup IPA, an 8.5% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Himitsu Beer in Ise, Mie here in Japan. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Himitsu Beer before, and we will definitely add more to that list at some point in the near future. This is one of the real up-and-coming breweries in Japan, and I'll be keeping a close eye on them. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to very regularly, of course, because I come to Japan regularly, and we also get quite a bit of Japanese beer in Hong Kong. And do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Himitsu Beer once again then. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, Himitsu Beer are based in the city of Ise in Mie Prefecture in the Kansai region of Japan, and this company was founded back in 2022 by Yabuki Keita and Sasaki Motoki. So the two men were high school classmates from Ujiyama High School, and they also attended the same university in Ishikawa where they were studying agricultural and food science. But after graduation, Yabuki worked for a publishing company while Sasaki went on to work in research for a sake manufacturer. But apparently they met again at a school reunion, and this kind of rekindled a desire for them to do something together. So they went on to work for different breweries, with Sasaki working for Isakadoya in Mie, of course, one of the real old school Japanese craft breweries. They are great, I recommend you try their beer. And Yabuki went on to work for Yoroko in Kanagawa Prefecture. After a number of years working for their respective breweries, they decided that they wanted to start their own brewery, and that was, of course, what Himitsu Beer became. So the brewery itself can be found in a barn that once belonged to Yabuki's grandparents in the Futami area. They received finance through crowdfunding for their equipment, and then they renovated the barn almost completely by themselves, apart from the laying of the floor and the electrical work. But they liked the idea of being what they would term a farmhouse brewery. Those of you who are American beer enthusiasts will know exactly what that means, you know, like producing saisons and all these kind of things. And so they produced some of the ingredients for the beer themselves on their surrounding lands, such as rye and wheat, and they also hope to increase this going forward and potentially become sort of self-sufficient in their malting and things like that. So they produced their first beers in 2023, and they've been very prolific over the last year or so and gained a very solid reputation. But apparently the brewery motto is a brewery that creates a place to belong. And the name Himitsu, as I mentioned earlier, translates into English as secret. So the name of this brewery is literally Secret Brewery. But the idea is that they want to make beer so good that you want to keep it a secret, but also that you want to tell somebody at the same time. But yeah, as of October 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 125 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And like I said, they've done a whole host of different styles. So yeah, these guys are doing some very, very good stuff, and they are one of the breweries that I would highly recommend that you check out if you you get the chance. So yeah, that is everything I can tell you about Himitsu Beer for the moment. If you want to learn more, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. And hopefully they'll open up a bar in Isa at some stage and we can go and make an out and about video there. If not, we go and visit the brewery. That would be really nice. But yeah, let's crack on then and see what the beer itself has in store for us. I can take a breath now. I've been feeling a little bit out of breath when I do the reviews. I don't know if it's the difference in the Japanese air or the humidity or something at the moment here, but that's just how it goes, I guess. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one and see what it's all about. So apparently this beer is inspired by the really thick ramen broth that you can get, and I'm wondering if the name Hamatora-san is from one of their local ramen restaurants. I'm guessing that. I did find a little description of this beer on Beer Volta, which is one of the premier kind of beer ordering websites, if you like, in Japan. And it says here, this is the second release of Hamatora, a ramen beer that may or may not have caused a bit of a stir in the beer world. It's been brewed for the second time too. This time it's a beer with a taste like ramen soup, inspired by a real rich chicken broth. And then it talks a little bit about how they've put a lot of they've saccharified the beer quite a lot and things like that. I'm not sure how accurate the translation is, but basically it talks about how thick they've made this beer and how they've played with the wort and things like that. So basically I think we're looking at a very thick, hazy New England IPA there. It doesn't mention what hops or anything are in this one, but this beer is supposed to be very highly rated, as was the first version of it. From what I gather, the first version of Hamatora-san was 8% ABV. This time it is 8.5% ABV. But yeah, you can see there they've got some of their little characters just taking a bath in the ramen broth, and I will say that kind of creamy ramen broth can be very nice. But the Himitsu beer seem to have these little characters on them. So yeah, there you can see Himitsu Beer, ramen, what's it? Ramen Hamatora, Beer Kichi, and the Yuya Boys. So I'm guessing these are different local businesses from the Isa area actually. This is a 350 milliliter can, 8.5% New England Hazy IPA, as we said earlier. So let's just get this guy out into the glass and see how we go. I'm really very, very curious about this one, I have to say that. And as I say, a lot of people have been telling me that Himitsu Beer are one of the breweries to keep an eye on in Japan at the moment. So there we go. So Kyoko, let me put it back so I actually name this beer properly when we have to say it again. This is always the thing with the Japanese beers. You want to make sure you get the names and the pronunciations right. So yeah, this one is the Kyoku Hamatora-san, Mr. Hamatora's Hazy Cream Soup IPA, 8.5% ABV. So you can see that when we poured this beer, it poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. That has just kind of faded away. It's got a little bit of foaminess to it, but you can see the bubbles are a little bit more kind of soapy as well, which is kind of interesting. Colour wise, I would describe this one as being a really kind of bright, rich sort of mango juice colour. I always like comparing the different New England Hazy IPA's appearances to different fruit juices, because that's really just what they remind me of. But yeah, remember, the colour of your beer is dependent on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But with IPAs, you very rarely have to care about that side of things. But yeah, I have to say this one does look very nice. Lovely kind of rich mango juice yellow colour to it. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this beer, just one or two bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass. If we shine the light through it, it's fairly opaque, but not the soupiest and gloopiest of 8.5%ers that I've come across. But remember, the level of haze in these beers depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. But yeah, this one is really quite nice looking, I have to say, and pretty much in line with what you would expect from a New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So nothing really surprising about the appearance of this beer, I guess we can say. So let's go on and have a little look at the aroma of this one. I'm really very, very curious about this. A lot of people recommended this beer to me, and I think I actually got the last can at Craft Beer Base Mother Tree as well. But yeah, I'm going to say straight away, the aroma of this one is very interesting, because it smells really kind of oily and slick and things like that. And I'm guessing when they're talking about the saccharification, if that's the right word, hopefully it's the right word, you can see why with this one. This is a really oily smelling New England IPA. And it's, yeah, really quite interesting in that regard. I don't think I've come across a New England double quite like this before. Certainly you can smell that this one is going to be very, very oily. Yeah, aroma wise that is really, really very nice, but it gives you kind of everything that you'd expect. You've got a lovely little bit of malty backbone to it. It's a wee bit difficult to place exactly what's going on in the malt base, but you've got a nice kind of bright green component to it, lovely oily fruits, and that soft kind of juiciness in there as well. So normally with New England Hazy IPAs, you have 6 elements, in my opinion, to think about. So yeah, for me, that's usually the kind of farmhousey, yeasty type character. You've got the rye lean and grainy side of things as well. And then those are a bit more common in the New England brewed New England IPAs. But then you've got wheaty bitiness, potey creaminess, barley malt bread, and the kind of sweeter side of things. And those are the 4 elements that have become a little bit more sort of prominent as the style has gone on and evolved, if you like. So yeah, interesting stuff actually when you think about how the New England IPA has evolved. But yeah, for me certainly this one smells really, really oily. So let's try and just break the aroma down then and describe it that wee bit more in depth for you, if you like. But when you do take the aroma in that little bit more deeply, if you like, you do start to get the elements of the New England IPA, but yeah, you can still smell that it's pretty damn oily. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, you've got that lovely kind of fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of it. It's got it has a really nice sort of, how would you say, yeah, it's got a really nice sort of, there's a little bit of woodiness to this one, which I think is a bit more pronounced because of the kind of oily vibe that this beer has. So yeah, a little bit of woodiness in there. A little bit of like brown bread and white bread, I would say, as well. So yeah, you've got that kind of fresh white bready bread crust, little bit of wood, little bit of cracker, wholemeal kind of brown bread in there, some lovely white bready character above that. And yeah, the bread actually smells quite sweet, but I think that's because of how oily this beer really smells. I'm so curious as to how this is going to taste and how this is going to translate into the flavour. But there's a wee bit of wheat in there. You can smell a little touch of wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose, and you can smell a slightly denser and very smooth white bready character in there. Definitely some oaty notes as well. And the oats smell more creamy rather than anything else, but they're not really dry either. So yeah, you've got that lovely smooth kind of creamy oaty character in there, and it's actually a little touch sweet on the oaty side of things. You can smell a little bit of dryness in there too, as I've often spoken about in New England reviews. And when it comes to the oatiness in these beers, the oats can quite often be a decent indicator of how fresh your beer is. Essentially, the drier they are, the older the beer is, the creamier they are, the fresher the beer is. But yeah, that is very, very rough, of course. So yeah, you do get a little bit of that creamy oaty character out of this one, a little touch of dryness to it as well, and you've got a lovely little touch of sweetness to this beer too. There's a little bit of that Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch and a wee bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity quality to this one too. And those sweeter elements, of course, are amplified a little bit by the oily vibe that this beer has. At the back of the nose, there's a wee bit of, at the back of the nose, there's a wee bit of yeasty character in there. So the yeasty side of this beer, for me, it's a little bit more brown bready, like a sweet kind of brown bready character. There are elements of like Jacob's cream cracker and stuff like that in here. And yeah, so a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker, a little bit of brown bread and things. And yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really nice in this one. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, nice yeasty character to this one. Let's go on to the hoppy side of things then. So the green component in this beer isn't overly pronounced, I would say. So when it comes to IPAs, you have to remember there are three kinds of hoppings that you can use in these beers. Early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you pretty much all of your bitterness and a deep dank sort of aroma. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil. Little bit of bitterness, mostly flavour and aroma, and it's going to give you a very bright green component. And then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that's all about flavour and aroma, if you like, but it gives you a very bright green component too. So yeah, all of these things are very, very nice to think about. But New England Hazy IPAs tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping, whereas West Coast IPAs use all three, which is why they're deeper and danker, and the New England IPAs are a little bit softer and juicy. You can smell with this one that it's actually a very smooth green component, and that makes me think maybe there's been a little bit of cryo oil or something being used in this particular beer. So yeah, some food for thought with this one, definitely. But yeah, the fruity, the green component in this beer, I think, is really quite soft. It leans more toward the floral side of things. You do have a little touch of earthiness to it, of course, wee bit of woodiness, but yeah, mainly kind of nice and floral aromatic, quite oily though, which is what's making me think there's cryo in here, and you do have that nice little bit of grassy zestiness coming out of the beer too. So let's round off our look at the aroma with a wee bit of a little look at the fruity side of the beer. There's something very familiar about this one. I think it's probably somewhere along the lines of like Citra and Mosaic, or Citra Galaxy Mosaic, or something like this. It smells very, very familiar, the fruity notes that are coming out of this one. So for me, there's a lovely big, soft, juicy mango to this one. There's apricots, there's papaya, there's a little bit of pineapple in there, so that's making me think, you know, Galaxy, Idaho 7 potentially. There's not too much of the grapefruit, so I'm thinking maybe not Citra. But yeah, lovely big juicy mango, like I said. Apricots, papayas, pineapple, and there is a little touch of an orangey note to this one. So yeah, that is kind of along the lines of yeah, I'd say that's kind of along the lines of Mosaic, or I don't know if it's quite zesty and oily enough to be Amarillo, but yeah, there's a nice orangey note to this one as well. So yeah, the way that that goes together in this beer, I think, is really nice. Lovely, oily, kind of juicy New England Hazy IPA, this one, and it smells great. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, but I think it's about time that we try this one. So yeah, this is the Kyoku Hamatora-san, to give it its Japanese name, or Mr. Hamatora's Hazy Cream Soup IPA, the second version of this beer, an 8.5% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, from the wonderful Himitsu Beer company in Ise, Mie Prefecture, here in the Kansai region of Japan. Let's taste this and see what it's all about. Slange, skål, and cheers. Kanpai. Oh, that's really damn good. Damn. Yeah. When they say it's inspired by the kind of creaminess of the ramen broths, I can see exactly what they mean with this. It's got that lovely oily slickness to it. You have this big sort of sweet impact flavour, and then it just gets that little bit drier into the aftertaste, like a kind of oaty dryness, but that lingers there. That's really, really damn good. That's a lovely, lovely beer. So I'm going to say big thumbs up to Himitsu for this. These guys are going to be pretty special. We can say that, you know. One of them worked at Isakadoya, the other one worked at Yoroko. I still need to review a Yoroko beer on the channel, in fact, but I've heard good things about their saisons and stuff like that. But yeah, these guys definitely know what they're doing. These guys, I'm pretty sure, will be one of the next big breweries, or hype breweries, if you like, from Japan. So if you come across Himitsu Beer, you know, I was very impressed with the Belgian stout I tried from them. Really seriously impressed with this. Give this brewery a go if you happen to come across them. They're still very small, might take a year or two, but try their beer. Do try their beer. This is really damn good. Big thumbs up to Himitsu. Yeah, that's really good. As I said, big, oily, slick IPA, this one, but just so nice. Let's break the flavour down then and just describe it a little bit more in depth. So, middle third of your palate then. The backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward on the middle third of your palate, you get that wee bit of woodiness in the base. Then you've got a wee bit of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker type quality sitting on top of it as well. Then you've got that wholemeal brown bready type character in this one. Then you've got the white bready character sitting above that. Both of those have a degree of sweetness to them as well. And like I said, this beer, this beer does show you more sweetness the further into the aftertaste that you go. So yeah, you do get a nice kind of sweet, bready character out of this one in the beginning. But the beer, I would say that generally speaking, this beer, it gives you that big oily impact and you get the sweetness, but then it just dries out a little bit actually. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really, really nice. So yeah, you get this kind of drier, creamy aspect to the beer into the aftertaste too. So yeah, above the kind of wholemeal brown bread, you can feel a thicker layer of white bread, which I'm suspecting is due to the presence of wheat. So you can feel that really dense and very smooth white bready character in this one, which I think is great. And then above that, you start to get the oaty side of the beer as well. And the oaty side of things is quite nice. So down the middle line of your palate, you get that lovely, you get a kind of more smooth, creamy sort of oaty side to the beer. But it's not madly creamy actually. It does have a little bit of dryness to it. And as you spread out toward the edges, of that middle third of your palate, you can feel the oaty side of the beer just does get that little bit drier. In the dead centre of your tongue, there's a little circle there, which is like Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch, and that is of course the boozy side of the beer. And yeah, the way that that goes together is really, really quite nice. Yeah. So the sweetness around the edge of that kind of sweet circle that I was talking about, the Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch, you have got a little element of like McVitie's Digestive Biscuit to the beer as well. So yeah, you are getting a little bit of sweetness out of this one into the aftertaste. But yeah, the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, the thicker it gets. I've not had an IPA that's had quite an impact like this one has on my palate for a wee while. As I say, seriously impressed with this one. But remember that sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. We're going to move on now and have a little look at the back third of your palate as well. But yeah, back third of your palate is going to give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the brown bread in the base, the kind of white bread in the middle, and then you've got the more dense, wheaty, white bready character on top of that. But the base of that back third of your palate, you've got the white bready bread crust in there again, which feels that little bit drier, the cracker, the brown bready layers in there, which feels a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy, which is really, really nice. So that's definitely in there, the lighter, taller, more airy brown bready character, a little touch sweet as well, but a wee bit drier, I would say. The white bready character sits on top of that. Again, that's a little bit lighter, taller, airy, and more dry, of course. And then yeah, above that you've got the really dense, wheaty white bready notes in there. And on the back third of your palate, the wheat is showing you a little bit of that more kind of bitey character. But yeah, above that you have the yeasty character coming out of the beer. So let's have a little look at that yeasty side of things. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer, I think at its core, it's like a slightly more dense and slightly grainy, but still quite sweet wholemeal brown bread. Then as you move further out from that, it's got it's more white bready, but it's kind of sweet at the same time. And then around the edge of it, it's got a little bit more of a kind of bread crusty character for sure. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together on the yeasty side of things is quite nice. And the yeast does linger into the aftertaste as well, but the sweet side of the malty part of the beer lingers there too. So they're kind of competing, but they balance each other out really, really nicely. But yeah, definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, really good stuff from Himitsu, this one. This is a seriously good New England IPA. For me, the hoppy side of things, this one I do wonder if there's a bit of cryo or something being used in here, because it's very, very smooth, but like I say, the overall vibe of this beer is a little bit oily. But yeah, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of, you do have that nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's got a little touch of herbal character as well. Then as you push further forward from that, it feels a little bit more sort of floral and aromatic. So yeah, I do like how that goes together as well in this beer. That gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, so the floral aromaticity does linger there into the aftertaste a wee bit, but around the front curve of your palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. But the green component, as I say, is quite wet, and the beer does feel kind of quite clean to a degree as well. We'll come to that in the aftertaste. But let's have a wee look at the. Let's have a little look at the fruity side of things with this one, the front third of your palate. So yeah, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there, the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, then the more dense, smooth, wheaty character above that. The base of that front third of your palate is, of course, the bread crust. You've got a bit of the cracker, the brown bready character in there, which gives you the wee bit of sweetness, the white bready character, then the really dense and smooth, wheaty note out of it as well. But then above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters from the hops roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at those. Yeah, fruity side of things. Yeah, fruity side of this one, very soft and very tropical and juicy, you know. I think it's something along the lines of like Idaho 7 or Simcoe that's in this one. I don't think Citra or Galaxy. I think it is something a wee bit softer than this. But yeah, if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, maybe there's a very slight peachy character to this one. But as you move further forward, yeah, there's passion fruit there, lovely big juicy oily mango. As you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, there's like soft apricot, some papaya in there, a more oily pineapple sitting on top of that. And I'm trying to figure out, when you come further forward into the front half of the front third of your palate, it's almost got a little bit of a kind of oily pear or a sultana type quality. And I think into the aftertaste, you can feel above that, it's maybe got a little bit of orange. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is like Simcoe and Mosaic, or maybe Idaho 7 Mosaic, something like that. I'd be very curious to know what hops have been used in this one. But yeah, it's more tropical leaning in the beginning, but then into the aftertaste you start to get more of that citrusy orangey side of things as well. But yeah, beautiful New England Double IPA, this one, and I love this big oily mouthfeel that it has. I think we've said everything we need to about the flavour, so at this point we should round off with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, as I've said various times throughout this review, this is one of the most oily and slick New England Double IPAs that I've come across ever. I think this is really interesting for me. So yeah, I'd describe this beer as being at the bottom end of full bodied. The carbonation is virtually non-existent in this one. It's that oily and that slick, as I say, but at the same time it's still clean. As I've often said, Japanese beer always has this element of drinkability to it. The Japanese want their beers to be clean and drinkable. That's, to them, that is what beer should be. This beer still shows you that, even with this big oily slick mouthfeel that it has. The malt base has a little bit of dryness underneath. You've got that lovely smoothness in the middle, which is a mix of like, you know, kind of sweet breadiness and things, and then you've got that more creamy dry sweetness on the top of the malt base as well. The yeasty side of the beer again gives you a little bit of sweetness and a wee bit of dryness into the aftertaste too. The IBU in this one, generally speaking, the hoppy side of this beer is quite, I'd say that it's quite smooth. It doesn't show you too much bitterness, this beer. I think this one's maybe only 20 IBUs. at most, maybe 20 or 30, an absolute push. I think 30 is the most you're going to get out of this, but the green component, like I say, is very smooth and slightly oily, and you've got this lovely big oily, juicy, fruity character out of this one as well. Mainly tropical leaning in terms of its fruity notes, but it does show you a wee bit more orangey character into the aftertaste as well. But irregardless, beautiful, beautiful New England Double IPA, this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. This is one of the ones that's really struck me, and I've not had this in quite a wee while actually. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. I highly recommend you have a little look at this beer should you get the chance. Yeah, this is the Kyoku Hamatora-san, or Mr. Hamatora Hazy Cream Soup IPA, a New England Double, New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from the wonderful Himitsu Beer in Ise, Mie Prefecture here in Japan. Try this one if you get the chance, and try some of the other beers from this brewery. I really would recommend them. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Himitsu as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. Until then, Slanja, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very shortly. Slanja, Skål, cheers, and Kanpai.